Hello beautiful soul, and welcome to Manifest with me, Rebecca G. I'm your manifestation, meditation and mindset coach who blends equal measures of soul, strategy and a little sprinkle of science on the side. Consider me your modern day pink witch with my spiritual toolbox packed full of ideas to energize and inspire you and to put the action into the law of attraction. Let this podcast be your weekly fix because, my beautiful soul, it is time to turn your vision board into a reality. Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome to today's Manifest with me, Rebecca G podcast. So today I have someone I'm very excited about. If you're watching this on video, you'll be able to see what I'm holding up. Some of you in the membership have been really excited about hearing from this beautiful girl. So Witch Please is probably one of the best books I have read in a long, long time. I'm not just saying that because you're on screen with me. Victoria Maxwell with me all the way over in Oz. So tell me a little bit about you, about your background, how you got into writing, because we've got a couple of people who are wanting to write books in our group as well. So it'd be good to hear from you on that and your story. Tell us all about you.
Oh, okay. How much time have you got? Okay. Where to begin? Okay, so for those of you who don't know who I am, I'm Vix. I'm Victoria Maxwell. I'm an author, and I write spiritual books. I've got a couple of oracle decks out, and I've also written some fiction, young adult fiction, and I'm still doing all of those things as well. I run a business called New Age Hipster, which was kind of how people started to find out about me at the beginning, and that kind of started off as a spiritual blog, just a place for me to share my own spiritual journey. And the more I kind of started to do that and talk to people in the community and get these nudges from my guides to start doing some readings, that kind of turned into a spiritual business. Started doing readings for people, started doing spiritual development courses, tarot courses, teaching people how to read cards, all that kind of stuff. And then it just kind of took on a life of its own. And and then one very special, magical day, I got an email from HarperCollins and they said, "Hey, we like what you're doing. Do you want to write a book?" And I was like, "Yes." So that's kind of the very short version of how I kind of ended up writing Witch Please. But it kind of sounds like it was really easy, like, oh, it just happened, like I just manifested it. And I did, but there was also a lot of work that happened to make that happen too.
Of attraction. So you were wanting it, you were wanting to bring it in, potentially wanting to bring that manifestation in, but because you were in action, that's the big thing. And that's why you talk so much about that. And if you've never read the book, you must get it. It's super affordable as well, which I love. And I'm not going to lie, I was drawn to this book because it had the word witch in it, and the title of my podcast is I'm your modern day pink witch, because we talk about rituals and spells and things in a really kind of pink way, not like dark magic, which is what I love you have talked about as well. And the cover of the book being pink, I was just like, yes, someone's doing like witchy stuff and they've got pink in their vibe. I was like, I'm loving this book. So the book, and I love the that on the cover. I'm like, yes to the pink.
So many people have picked it up just because it's pink.
It's such a good idea, but it's really easy to read. And what I loved about this book as well is that you have got everything organized, beautifully designed in there. You've got a beautiful introduction to witchcraft, and I love it. And this is my calling as well, to really introduce people to the witchcraft world and not have them afraid of it and thinking, oh, is it all dark and spells? And yeah, of course it's spells, but you can do that in a modern day way of using witchcraft. And I love this as well because you've got this huge advocate in there for combining spells and rituals with kind of our everyday lives, which is imperative, isn't it, to all of us as, like, you know, especially if you're a new witch coming into either of our spaces. And for me, I remember when I first started practicing spells, I was like, oh, I'm just going to do the spells and then it's going to magically happen. Obviously doesn't work. And I love that, how you work through this and you really stress that point of gratitude within your book as well. And that, what is it you said? The prayer without action is just lip service to the divine, I think you said. I love that sentence. And it's talking really about how in times of crisis, in times of need, I really, really pulled on your book as well when I was reading it. And I thought, you know, I love how you can just bring spells in. It doesn't have to be on a full moon or a new moon. You can do it any time. And the other thing I love that you put in there is you strongly advocate, which we do in Sacred Souls, about self-love and setting up boundaries as well with yourself. I love it how you covered that, and that boundaries being really key to our relationships and things. But I love that. And you've got spells in there. You've got creating sanctuary in your home, finding self-love, attracting money, finding purpose. Like it's brilliant. It's such a brilliant book. I'm really singing your praises on here, aren't I?
Yeah, I'm just like, I'm here for it. Just receiving.
The energy you've put into
receiving.
How long did it take you to write it, the book?
Honestly, I wrote it in a month.
Wow.
Yeah. It's a very, very quick turnaround. There was a lot of
I guess, but from it.
There was a lot that kind of actually came up for me around I got this opportunity, and then I went through this whole process of like, do I want this? Is this really what I want? Is this the right publisher? Is this the right book? Because I'd wanted to do a book for a long time. And I had actually gotten to the point with a different publisher where they wanted to write a book with me, and I put in a submission and they said, this is great, like we're going to publish it, we'll get you a contract. And then I didn't hear anything for a few weeks, chased it up, and they were like, actually, we're not going to do that now. And it was like, what? So yeah, like when I got this opportunity, I was kind of like just going through the process of like doubting myself, second guessing myself, questioning everything. And it was really interesting because I think sometimes in manifestation, we don't talk about what happens when you get it. Like, are you going to be open and be like, okay, yes, let's do this? Or are you going to say yes and then go through a whole process of like, now I have to really become this person that I've been saying I wanted to be, now I have to fully own this. And
you have to
you have to step into your power and be like, okay, now I'm an author, and all the stuff around, are people going to like it? What are people going to say about it? Is it going to sell any copies? Like all this stuff that for a long time, the manifestation is just, I want a book deal and I want to write a book. And then you get it. And then it's like, okay, but oh my God, like what if it doesn't sell any copies?
Overcome that. So how did you work through that? Because I went through that recently. I'm developing an app at the moment, which is all virtual stuff going on. Yeah, I'll chat to you about that in a bit.
Yeah.
And I had this real meltdown about 2 weeks ago. I was like, well, why would anyone buy my app? There's so many apps. Why would they want my meditations? And why would they want my stuff on there, my witchy stuff on there? Like my head was just going mental. And then the full moon came. I was like, I'm just going to blame the moon, because it was like about procrastination and like doubting yourself. And I feel so different about it this week. But I do some rituals and I do some clearing, and I know my root chakra was blocked. So I was like, right, and do some meditations on that. Do you have like a little spiritual toolbox that you go to when you're like, okay, what is going on here? I'm in a total funk. Or do you have a therapist, or do you go, I have Reiki and I have treatments that I do as well. Do you have like a little something that you pull from to bring yourself out of those? Because we all have them. We all have those.
Yeah. And I'd love to see more people talk about this as well, because so often on social media as well, it's like, here's my next book and here's all the things that I'm creating. And it's like, yeah, this is great, but what's really, what else are you experiencing? So yeah, I love having these conversations and being open about it, that, there is a process and it's not always this like Instagram perfection of the book deals and the book signings and whatever. But yeah, in terms of like tools, I think for me, one of the things that I really have to do is I just have to go through it. And if I try too soon to kind of release it or get to the next place where I know that I need to get to, I find I can kind of get stuck there. So, we were talking about like self-love. And for me, the first thing I need to do is just recognize what's going on and be like, okay, this is interesting. This is interesting that this is coming up, and just kind of sit with it for a little while and kind of, ponder on like, why am I feeling like this? And where is this coming from? And does this feel true? Does this feel real? Or is this anxiety? Or is this just fear? Or is this, something weird in my energy that needs clearing? And that's kind of where I start. And then from there, I go into I'm kind of using all of my tools to work through it. So journaling, tarot, oracle cards, Kundalini yoga, meditation practices, a bit of everything to kind of, okay, now I need to kind of just like, own it and ground into it and try to get through to the other side.
Like you said, it's so good to normalize this, because I think I say this a lot in my group to the women, like, I'm going through as much spiritual shit as you are. Like, the higher I seem to climb in my spiritual development, the more I'm like, I worked on my roots. I thought I declared that from my childhood. I thought that shit had gone. And then you're like, okay, clearly I think we're meant to go through it, because we're meant to be either teaching it or talking about it like we are now, to make others feel like, okay, so they're not like on Instagram having this picture perfect life all the time and she hasn't got a shit all the time. Because we're females, and I say to my girls all the time, we are full of hormones anyway. You got that on all the planets going on, and then you've got like the moon stuff, and then you've got like just generally awakening to the spiritual world, and then living in this world as well, having to keep your feet on the ground and energies flying at you from every direction with people that you meet all day. Like, it's a lot. So it's so talk about that, about the thing, the toolbox. I call it our spiritual toolbox in our group. Like, what are you going to pull from? Like, what tools are you going to use to bring yourself out? And I love how you say you almost pick yourself apart like an onion. You're like, okay, let's peel this back. Like, what's going on here? Is this fear? Is this? I really love that you've done that, and you really cover so much in the book that can help people have new spiritual tools and have more things within their toolbox as well. Have you? Because you've got a new book coming out, haven't you, as well? So tell us about that, because this is massively going to be great for us. We're going to use this in our book club. I think it's May it comes out, is that right?
Yes. Yeah, it's the end of May.
Yeah, so tell us about that. What's the title so they can write it down? And
yeah, so it's a follow-up to Witch Please, and it's called Manifest Your Dreams.
Nice.
And it's all about manifesting.
Yes. And can you tell us a bit about it? Like, are you allowed to talk about it yet or not, or is it?
Yeah, so it's really, I have manifested like amazing things in my life, which I'm, so very grateful for. But in my process of learning about manifestation and reading all the books and taking the classes and everything, I kind of got to this place where a lot of it didn't really resonate with me. Like, I never really resonated with this idea that if you just think about $1 million, $1 million will fall out of the sky. Like, a lot of the teachings kind of suggest that that's it, or you raise your vibration and everything will come to you. And I do think that is true, but I also think there's a lot of other things that influence what's going on with manifestation, and why sometimes we get things that we want and sometimes we don't get things that we want. So I've really tried to kind of write a book that's like, yes, thinking positive thoughts helps, but there's also all of these other things going on and other tools that you can use if you're struggling with your mental health, or, if you're dealing with anxiety and you're in that place of like, I want to write a book, but I'm having some anxiety about that. Like, does this mean that I can't manifest it? Does this mean it's not going to happen? So I put like some stuff in there about mental health. I also touched on privilege and how that affects manifestation. I talk about things like capitalism and consumerism and all this stuff that a lot of people don't want to talk about. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to be brave and I'm going to just put a little section in the book about that stuff. And in a way, I feel like that's so much more empowering, because then we're not just reading these books that are like, hey, think positive, raise your vibration and you'll get anything you want. And then if you don't, it's your fault, like it's your fault that you weren't high vibrational enough or whatever.
I'm so glad you've covered this, because I did a podcast episode months back called Affirmations Are Bullshit. And it's not. Well, it was like,
I've got affirmations in the book.
I use them every day, but they're bullshit when you are not in that good place. Like, if you're anxious or you're like, that shouldn't be what you're doing. Like, if you're trying to manifest and you're just using affirmations and trying to be positive, you're just not going to be able to manifest, because you're like literally pushing that manifestation even further away, because you're not dealing with the root cause of why you're feeling anxious. And I'm so glad you got that within your book, because of course we love affirmations and they are great for programming and all that. They're not actual bullshit, but I did that as a cover, like a to make people listen to it. And people are like, oh, I'm so glad the way that you described, because I don't feel positive all the time. I'm like, nobody does.
Yeah, nobody does. Nobody does.
Manifesting my perfect life and I feel incredible every day. Like, no, they're lying if they're saying that.
And that's not, like, I don't feel like that's what we're here to do. Like, we're here to learn and we're here to grow and we're here to make mistakes and learn lessons and like, we're not here to have this perfect life.
I love how you said you got messages from your guides to start this spiritual side of your business, because I did as well. It was through lockdown and they were like screaming at me. Like, and my message was, you have to tell the truth. Like, you have to be truthful about everything you're doing. And that's kind of how I've built my Sacred Souls, is just sharing with the girls, like, I'm having a really shit day today. Like, but this is what I'm going to do to make myself feel happy. Like, you do that as well within your practice, within your groups as well? Are you quite like that with your girls? You just show every, like, warts and all, as we call it in the UK. That's what I hear.
Yeah. I think it's really, I really love this quote that I heard. I've heard a few different people say it, but they talk about sharing from the scar and not from the wound.
Oh, wow.
And like, I really like that. I tend to be like the most open in my newsletters with my newsletter community. Because I feel like people are actually opening my newsletters and reading like this. I write like a big like ramble every couple of weeks. It's like, if you're interested, like, this is what's happening. But yeah, I try to kind of, and I think it's different for everybody. Like, I see lots of people sharing in so many different ways with all of the, technology we have to share. Like, we can share. Like, I've got lots of friends and people I follow who just get on socials and they're just like, oh, this is going on right now. But for me, because I'm like a bit more introvert, I like to just sit with the shit that I'm going through. And then kind of when I come out of when I've done the work, done the practices and come out of the other side, then I'm like, hey, this happened and this helped me through it. And yeah, that's how I like to share.
Goes online and cries, and I always say on my podcast, I'm like, why do these women think, oh, that men, like, I'm going to pick up my phone and film myself? I'm like, that is the last thing I want to be doing when I'm in a
yeah. But I think it's great. Like, if people want to do that and like it's empowering, that's great. But yeah, I'm probably not going to do that.
And I just have to mention, if you're listening to this, you won't be able to see it. If you're watching it on YouTube, you will. But that bookshelf behind you is insane. I mean, I thought I had a lot of books, but are they all spiritual books?
Oh my gosh.
Look at that.
Yeah, most of them. There's a couple of squares that are like my Sweet Valley High collection. I don't know if you're familiar with Sweet Valley High.
Sweet Valley High. I used to have all of them, and then I don't know what happened. I think I just sold them. My God, they're probably worth a fortune. Are they the original?
No, they're not. You can buy them on eBay for like 5p.
Those me thinking so much money. They're like, no, they're not.
No one wants it. No one really wants it.
I love girls.
Yeah, I found them in like charity shops and stuff, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, another Sweet Valley High book. So yeah, there's a bunch of, but the rest are like spiritual and decks and stuff.
Love it. Have you got your own book on there? Is your own book on there?
Yeah, I do. I have like one of the little squares is like all my own books.
It must
like loads of copies of them, so it looks like there's more.
If you want to be part of a powerful community of like-minded soul sisters, goal-getters and big dreamers, then the Sacred Souls membership could be for you. This is my new monthly moon, meditation and manifestation membership for women who want to learn how to manage their mind, attract their dream life and blend equal measures of mindset and spiritual development into their life. You'll get to turn your vision board into your reality and do this alongside supportive coaching from myself and be alongside like-minded, soul-aligned community of women. I am so excited to bring this to you. It's starting in January 2023. Jump in now, check out the link in the bio. It's just £19 to join and I'm keeping it that low for a very short time. So jump on in there and sign up today because I can't wait to have you in my space and just pour even more love into you.
When did you write your first book? How old were you?
Well, I wrote my first fiction book. I published that in 2018.
Yeah. A long time ago. Yeah.
So that was my first fiction book, and Witch Please came out in 2020. It came out in COVID year.
Is that when it came out in COVID?
Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah, because we wanted to do some we wanted to do some events and some signings and have a launch party. And I actually didn't even see the book in a bookshop for like months because I couldn't go outside. I couldn't go outside. The bookshops weren't open. So yeah, it was weird. It was a weird time to release a book.
Oh, it's beautiful. And you talking here about setting up your altar, and I can see it looks like you've got an altar behind you. Like,
I do, yes.
look at that.
It's kind of a mess at the moment, but I'm a big believer in like the mess is good, you know, like means that it's working. It means that you're doing the work, and that hopefully your team's doing the work with you.
You change it, your altar.
I do, yeah. And I do have some stuff in the, I'm pretty sure in the book I wrote some stuff, in Which Please, I wrote some stuff about, how to know when to change your altar around and clean everything. But at the moment, I kind of just use it until I just get the feeling that like, okay, it's time to clean the altar.
Mine's like that. And then you're like, oh, I forgot I had those crystals. Oh, I forgot I had that. Oh, where have you been? And you've got your own cards. I didn't know that. I didn't know you had.
Yeah.
Have you got them with you? Because our podcast session, we always pull a card and like give a message. Have you got? You can do.
I do. Yeah. So I've done 2 decks, and the first one's called Angels Among Us, and the second one that I've got with me is Goddesses Among Us. And basically, what we did was we brought the beings down to earth by making them look like normal people, like people you'd see on the street.
Yes. Oh my God.
Kind of the
angels that you've never seen before in your life.
That's the vibe. Yeah. So we've got Sarasvati like in a denim jacket, and
look at that.
Like that. Vesta just talking about altars, and she's just in like a gingham dress. And yeah, so we've just kind of like.
Are they real?
We just need to.
Are they people in your life? The people on the cards?
One of them is. And one of them's me secretly, but no one knows who it is. I'm like, oh, couldn't you tell that like one of them was loosely based on me, and no one noticed. But anyway, doesn't matter.
Can we pull a card on here?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, let's do one. They love that card pull. It's always a powerful message. Drum roll.
Oh, okay. I love it. I love this for your group as well. So this is the Priestess card.
Yeah.
And it's so all of the cards in the deck are goddesses, and the Priestess card is the final card in the deck. And she's, for people who are listening and can't see, she's kind of walking into the sunset. She's got a denim jacket on, and on the back of her jacket are all these different symbols from all the different goddesses. So we've got like a lotus flower, a unicorn, a snake, like all of these spiritual symbols. And the keywords are the journey, initiation, blessing, and activation.
I love it that you've got that.
I love.
That's so cool. No one does that with cards. Trust me, I've got a shit.
Yeah, me too.
I've got about 20 cards, about 20 decks.
Yeah.
No, I've never seen you've got the power words on the card. That's so cool.
Yeah. So we the Priestess card is really powerful too, because the whole like intention behind this deck is I was noticing like so many people would, and I do this too as well in my practices, like we call on the goddesses for help, or guides, or angels, whoever, and it's like, please help me, please come and do this for me or do that for me or whatever. But I started to kind of realize on my journey that it's not just about asking for help, it's about really kind of becoming the goddess and like embodying the energies of the goddess, and walking through life as a spiritual being and knowing that you are divine. So the Priestess card is all about like remembering your own divinity and remembering that you are just as divine as the goddesses, the angels, and all of the beings, the higher beings that you call on for help.
That's beautiful. How long did it take you to design those, or did you get someone to do that?
So this beautiful friend of mine called Ellie Grant, she did the art, and so the way that we did the deck was I'd kind of tune into the energies of each card, and then I'd make like a vision board for her using like collage and pictures from all over the place, and then I'd send it to her and she'd make it into this like incredible piece of art.
that is collaborating at its finest, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
You think you're
amazing.
2 decks, did you say? You had another one?
I've got 2 decks. So we've got 2 out, and we're actually working on another one at the moment.
Great. And where can people buy these from? Can we get them in the UK?
You can get them in the UK. Amazon's probably the best place, or if you don't like Amazon, I know some people don't, you can buy it on Book Depository or Wordery or one of those websites. But
Amazon.
Yeah, I know there are some witchy shops who stock them as well. So yeah, you might find them, might come across them.
I'll put the link in the show notes. How can we sign up to your blog? Do you send a weekly blog? Did you say a newsletter?
I send a newsletter every 2 weeks.
Every 2 weeks. Okay, how can we get into that? I want to get into that. I don't get that. I want a bit.
So the best way to sign up to that is to just go to my website, which is newagehipster.co. But if you just Google New Age Hipster, it'll be the first thing that comes up. And there's a few different freebies on there as well for people to download if you want a freebie.
Such a cool vibe. I love it. And I'm just like in awe of you, like books, oracle cards, you're doing it all. What else have you got coming up? Like in the next manifestation, what are you bringing in?
So one of the things that I'm doing at the moment that I've kind of just started to get rolling with, while we were in lockdown, one of the things that had really helped me at the beginning of lockdown was my Kundalini yoga practice. So while we were in lockdown, I decided to do my teacher training. So I did that during COVID. Because, everyone had a COVID project. Some people had a COVID project. So I did that during that whole period of time. And now I'm teaching these classes. I've created this thing called Kundalini Magic. And there are these workshops where I use Kundalini mantras and meditation as part of the class. And then we also kind of do some journaling and some card reading and intention setting. So it's kind of like a blend of Kundalini practices and magical practices and a bit of ascension teachings and whatever else happens to kind of come in. But that's probably like the calling that I have at the moment, like the way that I'm feeling really called to work with people. So
yoga is that I've heard so much about it, but I don't.
Oh, you'd love it.
She's like, get my
yes, like, oh yeah. It's a really interesting form of yoga. Like the first time I went to a class, I absolutely hated it, and I walked out halfway through because I was like, why would anybody want to do this? Like, this is just bizarre. There was like part of it because I thought like, oh, it's yoga, so we're going to be doing some flow and some meditation and like whatever. And like one of the first things that the teacher had us do was like put our arms up in the air and just hold our arms in the air for like 11 minutes. And I was like, I don't think so. Like, this is not for me. But then I kind of got the nudge, when you get the nudge and you're like, oh, the Kundalini yoga thing. Like, I wonder what that was really about. And so I kind of went down this rabbit hole of like doing some classes online and finding out more about it. Yeah, so you got your hands in the air, you got your fingers like this, like your fingers are on like the pads and they're at like a 60-degree angle. And then you're doing like this breath of fire. So you're like,
that's so hard.
Yeah, and it's fine for like 15 seconds or whatever. The first time you do it, you're like, oh, this is fine. And then you just get to a point where you're like, why am I doing this? But actually, the more you learn about it and the more you kind of dive into it, the whole practice is it's really based on like sacred geometry. So when you're putting your arms and your body in these different positions, you're creating this specific kind of effect in your body, but also in your energy field. So it's kind of like I like to describe this form of yoga as basically like these different positions or kriyas or meditations, as they call them, are basically spells. So you have an intention and you're like, okay, I want to clear my energy field. And then there's like a specific kind of set of movements that will help you clear your energy field. And it's really like, you set the intention, you do the movement, and then you feel amazing.
Girl come in and do breath work in our group, and it reminds me of that actually, because the first time, not with her, I've done it previously on a course, I did a breath work course, and the first time I did that I was like, well, this is fucking ridiculous.
Yeah.
My whole, and she even said on the course, you will go through the first 2 times of doing this and you'll be like, why am I here? Your inner teenager. It's not your inner child, it's your inner teenager comes out. And I was like, oh, she was strong. She was so strong. I was like, what? This is ridiculous. We breathe every day. Nothing's already happening. And then I felt like I was on magic mushrooms. I was just like, oh, this is really interesting. Yeah. And then I couldn't rave about it enough. But I remember the first time I want to go back and do this the next session. This is so annoying. And then probably like you found it. And it's that part of your brain, isn't it? It's like trying to keep you safe. It's like, this, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And you found
like I could never have imagined, like when I was in that class, I never would have imagined that, like, it was like eight years ago, like 8 years from now, you're going to be a teacher, you're going to be teaching other people. I would have been like, I don't think so. Yeah, but it's been, it was such a, like the practices were so grounding and just like, you know, during COVID, it was such a crazy time. I mean, life is crazy anyway, right? Even when you don't have all these other things happening, but it just really helped me stay sane at that time. So I was like, I've got to learn more about this. And
I think you can come through COVID and find sanity, which a lot of us have in the spiritual world.
Oh, you know, it was like some days were better than others. But
yeah, for sure. Oh, bless you. So have you got any final thoughts you want to talk about? Any advice you want to give to my group? They're all into manifesting, spells, rituals. What would you give, your best advice that you would give to these women? What would it be? Your top piece?
Oh, gosh. Okay.
Black cat in the background. Look at that. You're a proper witch. Look at that.
Oh no, it's just my fairy lights.
No, I can see a cat. Am I seeing things?
No, that is my cat. I didn't know that he was here. Yeah. We've got two. We've got a black cat and we've got a tuxedo cat.
Sorry, interrupted you.
It's cats. Oh, so cute. So I guess one thing that I'd like to say, which I've really talked a lot about in the manifesting book, is really making sure that you're on this path for yourself and making sure that what you're manifesting is really what you want to manifest, not what social media thinks you should manifest, or what you've seen on TV or what somebody else has. And I think, all these practices that we do, like meditation, yoga, reading cards or whatever, and just kind of getting quiet, journaling, whatever your thing is, to really kind of reconnect with yourself and figure out what is it that you really want and what is going to really bring you the happiness and success, whatever that means for you, rather than, I know I've done it so much in my life. And I see people do it all the time, where we just get caught up in what things are supposed to look like. And success is book deals and, whatever else. And, maybe that is exactly what you want to manifest. Maybe a book deal is like, you're like, yep, this has given me the inspiration to go and do it and get it, because you can, because I did. But maybe it's not, maybe it's something completely different. So yeah, I think that's kind of my final thought on that, is just like, follow your own path and don't worry too much about what everybody else is doing. Be inspired by people, but go your own way.
It's just leaning into that trust, isn't it? But sometimes when you have a lot of women that say to me, I don't know what I want to be or what I want to so then that's your answer right now, is just to work on yourself and just be content with where you are right now, and then the answers will come to you. And I think that when you sit in meditation and connect, and you don't have to be psychic or particularly that spiritual at the moment, you could just start sitting in meditation and learning to sit with yourself, and those divine answers come through so strong. Like I believe we're born with this intuition, all of us anyway. When we sit with that moments within ourselves, that's when we get the biggest ideas. And who knows what you'll be doing in the next 10 years. There might be, your Kundalini might take off and you might be running retreats and like doing incredible things. Who knows?
Who knows? I'm open to whatever. Whatever it needs to be, wherever I'm called to go.
You must tell us. We're going to come and see you if you're in the UK ever doing things. So
I would love to.
It's been such a pleasure having you with me. I'm so glad that we managed to connect and get this call booked in.
Yes, me too.
You've been a busy bee, but it's always the right timing. But thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me and inviting me. It's been great.
Thank you for listening, guys.
I am so incredibly grateful that I get to spend every week in your ears and within your mind, and just know that I am sending you the biggest spiritual squishy virtual hug. but I need your help. I massively need your help with this podcast. Think of it like the podcast algorithm, and I need you girls to help me kick its butt. So if you've been reaching out to me on Instagram recently, on my stories and on Facebook, telling me how much you love this podcast, and so many of you write me these beautiful messages, please don't stop sending them. But I would be incredibly grateful if you could put those light bulbs into a review. You have no idea how much this will help the pod. So if you're on your phone right now, looking at the episode, look at the part where it says Manifest with me, Rebecca G, where it's highlighted. Click on that. You will now see it pop open to all of the episodes in big letters. Scroll down, it takes a couple of seconds to do this, and then leave a review with your favourite stars. Obviously 5 are the good ones. If you're not sure how to do this, I'm going to put a highlights video up on my Instagram on how to do this if you're a visual person and need to see that. So thank you so much. Thank you for being part of my massive manifestation to make this podcast #1 in the charts, and it will really help if you can just take a couple of seconds of your time to do that. Thank you so much.